with this. This was the known kind of story within the Jewish community. And the Qur'an is retelling the story, but what does Allah do? Allah doesn't ask the angels, what do you think? Allah tells them. You know, in Arabic, when you say, أَجْعَلُ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, I'm going to put, I'm not translating Khalifa yet because it's loaded. I'm going to put a Khalifa on the earth. That means you can say, well, are you sure? We could discuss this. But you say, inni ja'ilun, when you use the ism fa'il, when you use the definitive active participle. This is now a noun, it's set. I have made up my mind, no doubt about it, I am putting a Khalifa on the earth. Allah Azza wa Jalla is not asking the angels their opinion, He's actually telling them. He's telling them, this decision has been made. This is done, I'm informing you, not asking you. Okay? Now Allah is talking to the legions of angels. Allah did not specify that there's a small group of them. Some ulama believe that this was some angels. Others believe it was all the angels. At the very least, you would have to argue these are the angels that are closest to Allah, which Allah describes in the Qur'an, حَافِينَ حَوْلَ الْعَرْشِ, the ones that are surrounding and doing tawaf around the arsh, يَحْمِلُونَ عَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَ يَوْمَئِذٍ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ, the 8 that are hovering and holding the arsh of Allah together, يُسَبِّحُونَ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ, they're the ones who are doing tasbih of Allah. The countless angels in the infinite number that are closest to Allah are now hearing the announcement, I am putting a Khalifa on the earth. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi Khalifa. The other thing to note here that's very important, and I find this very convincing, Dr. Samir Rai pointed this out, may Allah preserve him. He points out that the command that is coming, you guys all know the story, the command is that he's going to do sajda, right? That Allah is going to tell them to do sajda. But actually, the command to prostrate for the angels is one, but it seems that Allah went out of His way to ask Iblis exclusively to do sajda too. مَا مَنَعَكَ أَن تَسْجُدْ إِذْ أَمَرْتُكَ. What prevented you from doing sajda, from prostrating, when I specifically commanded you? So there's a collective command to all of the angels, but in Surah Al-A'raf we learn that Allah exclusively targeted who? Iblis. Khasatan. Now, Allah mentions that once. He doesn't mention that every time. And we know that Iblis, if you follow the Israeli narrations, these are again extra biblical texts, that that he was given dominion, even kingdom or leadership over the angels, and he had this high position. So when Allah commanded them, it includes him. The Qur'an is hinting that Allah commanded him directly also. That solves a problem. Because for a lot of people, the ayah says Allah commanded the angels, and they all did sajda except who? Iblis. And they're like, well, if Allah commanded the angels, then he must have been from the angels. But Qur'an itself solves that problem by saying Allah exclusively commanded him. Allah actually issued the order to him in addition. And that resolves that problem. But anyway, إِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I am putting a Khalifa in the next 10 or 12 minutes or so, inshallah. I'll just say some things about the word Khalifa that I think that is valuable. I'm going to put a Khalifa, someone to be left behind on the earth. I don't know how far we can take the extra biblical texts and rely on them. They seem to be in line with what the Qur'an is suggesting. That's the only reason I'll bring them up. Because they don't seem to contradict the account of the Qur'an. They seem to be in line with the account of the Qur'an. And a lot of those oral traditions, in one way or the other, are passed down, how much they've been changed from the teachings of prophets. After all the corruption, it's still somehow or the other, you can tell from the teachings of prophets, right? Now, part of their story, the Jewish story, that didn't make its way into Torah, but extra texts, is they had a group called B'nai Elohim. That's a Hebrew terminology, literally meaning, it's blasphemous in our terminology, children of God. Okay? I'm sure you've heard Christians and Jews use the phrase, we're all children of God, right? Which actually, in a figurative sense, means people that are close to God or dear to God. Doesn't literally mean children. So there's a story about these creatures that were close to God, that were placed on the earth, and they caused all kinds of chaos on the earth. And then that rebellion was put down. Okay, that's the account that they have. And some of our Mufassirun have actually taken that from the Israeliyat, which doesn't mean they took it from the Old Testament, but also suggests that the Muslim scholars were in access of these extra biblical texts as well. But anyway, so this rebellion was put down, and now Allah Azza wa Jal decides once again to the angels, by the way, I've decided I'm going to leave somebody behind on the earth, Khalifa. Khalifa comes from the Arabic word khalf, which means to be behind, literally. So some have interpreted it to mean يَخْلُفُ بَعْضُهُ بَعْضًا, that I will leave someone who will have children, who will have children, who will have children, who will have children. He'll keep on leaving children behind. I will put someone on the earth who has many generations to come after him. That's the idea behind the word Khalifa. Another suggestion behind the word Khalifa is actually someone left behind to do as he pleases. Like for example, you have a manager that you trust at your company. You say, hey, I'm going on vacation. I am leaving you behind. And when I leave you behind, what does that mean? You're going to have to make the decisions. I'm putting my phone on airplane mode, right? Because you're in charge now. You're the one left behind. He's in a sense the Khalifa. And the idea is, I'm going to leave someone behind on the earth to make decisions. I'm going to give him free will, and I'm going to let him do as he pleases. This is the idea of Khalifa. The other idea of Khalifa is someone left behind that represents, like in a sense, the manager represents who? The boss, right? A manager will only be left behind if the owner has trained him really well, and the owner is confident that even in my absence, he will think, what would the boss have done? I should do what the boss would have done. So he's going to represent the decision-making patterns of his boss. So he's going to reflect the attributes of his boss when he's left to make those decisions. He's not going to change the management style, fire everybody under the company, and change the name, and change the logo, and change the address, and the guy comes back from vacation and he's like, what just happened? Well, you left me in charge. I thought you represented me. I thought I trained you well. The company is going in this trajectory. Even in my absence, it should continue to go in this trajectory. This ties us back to the idea of Khalifa from before, when we were in Allah's company. When we were in Allah's company, I told you we took on droplets of the attributes of Allah, like mercy, like creativity, like the pursuit of wisdom. Allah is wise, we want wisdom. Like the pursuit of knowledge. These attributes were given to us. So when Allah says Khalifa, He's going to leave on the earth someone who is going to take advantage of these droplets of the attributes of Allah that exist inside of his ruh, and he's going to do right on the earth. This is all embedded inside the word Khalifa. And that's why, it's important to note that the rest of the world, the rest of the existence that Allah made, all of it is in submission to Allah. Right? The exception seems to be the human beings and the jinn. What does Allah do over and over in the Quran? سَبَّحَ لِلَّهِ أو يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ or لَهُ الْمُلْكُ وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ يُحْيِي وَيُمِيتُ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Everything in the skies and the earth declares Allah's perfection. It does exactly what Allah tells them to do. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ فَمِنْكُمْ كَافِرٌ وَمِنْكُمْ مُؤْمِنٌ. But He made you, and some of you believe and some of you disbelieve. Everything else follows the pattern. Everything else is in line. And you people, some of you come and stay in line, some of you get out of line. But you're going to have to make that choice yourself, and that's the decision He declares. In these last 5 minutes, what I want to share with you, inshallah, is something about a principle of the Quran. Who is speaking so far? I'm placing a Khalifa on the earth. Who's the one speaking? Allah. Who's He speaking to? إِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. What do we know about the malaika? First, we know they're very close to Allah. Second, we know they're constantly doing tasbih of Allah, declaring His perfection. يُسَبِّحُونَ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ. Third, we know لَا يَعْصُونَ اللَّهَ مَا أَمَرَهُمْ وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. They don't disobey Allah in whatever He told them to do, and they do what they're told. They immediately do, they execute what they're told. وَبِأَمْرِهِ يَعْمَلُونَ or يَفْعَلُونَ. They only by His command do they act. What I'm trying to get at is in the view of Islam, in the view of the Quran, what Allah teaches us, angels are incapable of what? Disobedience, disrespect, shirk, kufr, denial. They're incapable of any kind of blasphemy altogether. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. Allah talked to them and said, I've made a decision. The decision is I'm going to put a human being on the earth. Now listen to this. قَالُوا وَتَجْعَلُوا فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءِ. You're going to be placing on it someone who's going to cause corruption And he's going to spill the endless blood, rivers of blood. Excuse me, you're going to put someone on the earth, even though he's going to this problem and this problem. What does it seem like the angels are doing? We're questioning Allah. They're saying, you're putting someone on the earth. We think it's a pretty bad idea. And here's why. The reason is, he's going to cause a lot of corruption. And he's going to spill a lot of blood. Now, before we deal with that problem, up until now, like since Adam alayhi salam until 2016, it seems like we've proven to the angels that they were wrong. But that's a separate point. Because corruption, us? Come on. Spill blood? No, not us. You know. So do they seem to have, now that we know, do they seem to have a valid criticism? They do. But the bigger point is the fact that they even have a criticism. Who are they to have a criticism against a command or a decision already made by who? By Allah. Now let's take a step back. You're studying Islam. You're studying Deen. You're studying with a scholar. You're studying with a teacher. And you read something you don't understand. You say, Ustad, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand how this can be. There's an imam giving a lecture. The guy comes up after the lecture and says, by the way, you said this, this, this. How does that even make any sense? And the imam says to him, Kafir, you question the word of Allah? Who are you? What are your qualifications? Where did you get your degree? I have an ijazah in this, 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 and this. You're going to question me? أخرجوه من المسجد. Kick him out of the masjid. Don't let him come back. This is Iblis. You know? In other words, when you say something about the command of Allah or the decision of Allah or the revelation of Allah and somebody comes along and says, this is not making sense to me. I don't understand how this can work. This seems to be a contradiction. How is this a good idea? Then our immediate response is what? Kafir. How can they? This is blasphemous. You can't ask that question. Astaghfirullah al-azim. Tawbah, 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 tawbah. Like, you know, however you can do it, you know. And sometimes it sounds like it. Some aunties do it so cool, right? They look like they were trained by the airport, you know, when they direct the planes. So, you know, they get the plane to the gate. But anyway, what we're learning in the Quran is angels who never disobey Allah, and are only in obedience to Allah and never question His perfection, asked Him a pretty direct question when they didn't get it. Does that take away from the fact that they're obedient? No. It didn't make them shayateen. By the way, in the same story, later on, somebody else will ask a question. أَأَسْجُدُ لِمَنْ خَلَقْتَ طِينًا? I'm going to do sajda to someone you made from clay? Who asked that question? So angels asked a question. Iblis also asked a question. But Iblis asks a question and becomes Iblis, shaitan. Angels ask a question, and I'd like to argue that the question of Iblis is a lot less offensive to human beings. Iblis's problem was he's made of dirt. That's it. Human beings are made of dirt. That's his problem. Angels, their problem is he's corrupt. He's a killer. Isn't that a lot more offensive than you're made of dirt? And Iblis didn't say something elaborate about himself, like I am so much more qualified. He did say ana khairum minhu, but he says you made me from fire. Angels actually, if you don't think about this carefully, angels turn to Allah Azza wa Jalla and say, this guy is corrupt, he's a killer, we do tasbih of you. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ. And we're the ones who declare you to be pure. This doesn't sound very humble. This sounds like, why are you giving him the job? Give us the job. And yet Allah is not angry with them. Allah doesn't punish them. And we already know they don't disobey Allah. They're not, they don't contradict Allah. They have no ounce of pride in them. Then how do we understand this text? I feel like teasing you and not telling you any of it until tomorrow. But I'll tell you a little bit of it. I'll give you a hint so you can think overnight. I want you to think Quran, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so you can think. This is not just so I can tell you all the answers. I need you to rack your minds. What is going on here in this story? Allah SWT is teaching us that it's not just the question. It's how you ask the question. It's not just about what you ask. It's also about how you ask. It's about how you ask. There's curiosity. Curiosity in and of itself is not forbidden. Not understanding even the command of Allah, not understanding it, not being convinced yet, is not forbidden. But if you come and ask and you question it with pride, arrogance, criticism, you come across as talking down about it, then you've got an Iblis problem. But when you come and ask the same question, you don't understand, but you make sure you say to Allah, Ya Allah, I'm asking this question, but I in no way mean any offense. In no way do I mean that this is imperfect. All I mean is, I don't understand. That's all I mean. Then you have every right to ask a question. Our religion is actually a religion of questions. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَتَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of remembrance if you people don't know yourselves. I would argue, in the Islamic education model and in all education systems, this needs to be a principle. You have the right to ask questions. And when people in positions of authority, professors, scholars, whoever, when they get offended by a question, they are actually departing from the sunnah of Allah. If Allah can give angels the permission to ask a question, who's left? How can you and I say, how dare you ask? You can't. You have to then acknowledge what you can criticize, however, is attitude. Attitude is wrong. If somebody comes with an arrogant attitude, you must put them in their place. And that's the sunnah of Allah too. That's what He did with who? Iblis. But if somebody comes with curiosity, genuine curiosity, they just want to understand, then there's no way you should be getting angry at them. You should be addressing their curiosity. Ad'u ila Allahi ala basiratin. I call to Allah with eyes open, with insight. What a beautiful religion. From the very beginning of the story, we are asked to become inquisitive people. That is the legacy of this deen, subhanallah. And we haven't even gotten into the story yet. May